You know, everyone has been very quick to claim that the age of woke Washington is over. But what I'm about to show you suggests that, well, that is not true, and not by a long shot. Meet Ms Maher. She's the current in-the-chair CEO of National Public Radio, a taxpayer-funded broadcast service called NPR that is so radically left-wing that it makes the ABC's Radio National look like the Alex Jones show. Now, the service is so hard left that last year one of its editors quit and posted a long cri de coeur online warning that people at every level of NPR have comfortably coalesced around the progressive worldview. But Maher was called to testify before Congress this week. And guess what? Her old Twitter, or now X feed, made for some pretty interesting testimony.
Let me ask you, why did you call President Trump a fascist and a deranged racist sociopath in 2020?
Congressman, I appreciate the opportunity to address this. I regret those tweets. I would not tweet them again today.
And then there was this.
Do you believe that America is addicted to white supremacy?
I believe that I tweeted that, and as I've said earlier, I believe much of my thinking has evolved over the last half decade.
And by the end of it, she was going the full Sergeant Schultz. I know nothing.
Do you believe that America believes in black plunder and white democracy?
I don't believe that, sir.
You tweeted that in reference to a book you were reading at the time, apparently, The Case for Reparations.
I don't think I've ever read that book, sir.
You tweeted about it.
Can't remember the book, I guess. Anyway, you see where this is all going. And it's worth noting that back in 2024, this head of a news broadcasting organization, well, she had this to say about the concept of truth.
I think our reverence for the truth might have become a bit of a distraction that is preventing us from finding consensus and getting important things done.
So why am I showing you all this? Well, a couple of reasons. I mean, yes, NPR still gets something like $250 million from the U.S. taxpayer, so it's pretty clear that the DOGE boys still have some work to do. But the more important point is that this is the mindset on display of much of Washington and the American Democrat left still today, despite Trump's supposed revolution. These are mainstream Democrats, and they are obsessed with radical causes, even if they are not so obsessed with the truth. So you see now what the Republicans are really up against. Well, now I've got a real special treat for you tonight. It's Margot Cleveland. She is a former law professor. She's counsel to the New Civil Liberties Alliance and also senior legal correspondent at The Federalist. She does probably one of the best jobs, I think, documenting all the different legal fights that are going on around the Trump administration. So I wanted to bring her here, and I'm thrilled to say she joins me now. Margot, welcome to the U.S. Report. First off, it seems like these days Donald Trump can't order a Big Mac without someone trying to file an injunction against him. Are the Democrats running an ongoing soft coup by the courts in the USA?
Well, they are definitely trying to. We have seen more injunctions and temporary restraining orders hit in the first 2 months of the Trump administration than in 4 years of the Biden administration. The judges are overwhelmingly granting these, and we are already seeing, though, some of the appellate courts put a hold on them. And I think that that is going to be what happens bottom line. So right now, we're kind of in the flurry of these injunctions. And in the next couple of months, I anticipate that most of the injunctions are going to be dissolved and that Trump is going to be on his way to continue implementing his priorities.
Yeah, and Margot, I want to ask, though, you mentioned about judges a moment ago, and I note that in the lawsuit over this whole controversy over the Signal chat group, well, the same judge is involved with this, who also recently ordered a stay on the deportation of Venezuelan gangbangers. Now, is this just a coincidence?
Oh, absolutely. So in addition to the other background that you provided for me, I worked for 25 years for a federal appellate judge. So I'm very familiar with how judges are appointed to designated to cases. And in that case, they it's a random assignment. And it is really unfortunate that there's this kind of conspiracy stuff that's going on. The judge actually, at the beginning of the hearing on the signal matter today, actually explained how the assignments happened in his courtroom. And while it's unfortunate, it's understandable because we are seeing the lawfare carried forward. And when the judges are entering such outrageous restraining orders, it makes the public suspicious of how are these cases getting to these judges that are making these rulings against Trump. So I don't think there's any reason of concern, but I understand why people who aren't familiar with it will respond that way.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear. But I also want to ask about another one of the big cases here, and obviously that's the one around the Trump administration's attempt to dismantle the USAID program, where we have seen so many scandalous things having money spent on them. Tell us about this, because I understand there's recently been a bit more action on this case. How is that proceeding?
So there are actually several different cases going on where they've been challenging the USAID, where they've been canceling the different grants, et cetera. So we have one case where the court said, basically, you can't cancel these grants. The Trump administration tried to have that injunction stayed, and the appellate court, I think it was just yesterday, said, no, we're not going to stay that injunction. It's absolutely clear what you can and can't do. It wasn't absolutely clear because the judge said, well, you can't do it under this guidance or anything that is based on that guidance. So that was a really poor decision, but I would expect that to go to the Supreme Court. On the other hand, we had a case where Musk and an individual who, Marco Rubio, so Senate confirmed Secretary of State, who is also currently the acting head of USAID, he appointed an individual to be the chief operating officer and the deputy administrator of USAID. And a federal court actually said, no, you can't have anything to do with it because you actually worked with the DOGE team. That case has actually been stayed by the appellate court. So I have a feeling that that is going to be thrown out because the injunction it's frankly crazy that a judge would think that they could tell who the president and his cabinet can allow to run different agencies.
Well, and at the heart of it, though, Margot, what's going to happen here is this must be about who the president is allowed to appoint, what he's allowed to tell them to do. This is all set out in Article 2 of the Constitution. Do all of these cases go individually to the Supreme Court, or will the Supreme Court at some point just be asked to rule and say, look, the president has this authority and he can do X, Y, and Z?
It's actually going to be somewhere in the middle. So I've been actually discussing cases in buckets. So in this bucket is the case about who they can appoint, the special counsel, the head of the Merit Safety Board or Protection Board. That's going to be one set of cases. There's going to be another case probably about USAID. There's going to be another case about birthright. But each case, when the Supreme Court takes it, is going to involve many different issues. So once the Supreme Court resolves one issue and establishes precedent throughout the country, that will bind the lower courts where that exact same issue is in play. And one specific area you want to look at is something called the Administrative Procedures Act. That has been what most of these lawsuits have been based on. And in most cases, the lawsuits are manipulating and abusing that statute. It's not meant to challenge these probationary employees being fired or the canceling of grants. And there's actually other courts that are designed and have jurisdiction over that. So you're going to see the Supreme Court probably wade into about a half a different cases, but over a very long time period. And that is going to end this kind of whack-a-mole that's going on with these injunctions, and then the appellate court slapping them down, and then another court entering an injunction.